Hi there, this is Linda and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm putting together my Project Life spread for October 11th through October 13th, 2025, and this covers 2 additional destinations in Morocco. Let's go ahead and dive right in. Okay, so this spread covers the next leg of our trip, which was the rest of Morocco. So if you saw my previous video, I documented our time in Marrakesh, and we actually spent 3 days in Marrakesh, or staying in Marrakesh, but I only put 2 on there because the last day we went to Ait Ben Haddou, which is this place out in the Atlas Mountains near the Sahara Desert. This is what it looks like. Here's some pictures. And I wanted to move that to this spread so that I could do an entire side of the page just about that adventure. Then we went to Casablanca. And so on this side, I'm documenting our trip to Casablanca, which was, we basically did this one day, then we went back to Marrakesh for the night, then we took the train to Casablanca, and we had a full day there before leaving for Madrid, which is going to be my next spread. So I have a lot of photos for this spread here. I'm just going to kind of see how I want to lay them out. Essentially, I decided to do only 2 like journal cards. I'll have one for journaling, one for my title. And I don't even know if that's going to be how I lay that out. I'm trying to figure out how I want to like arrange them. Maybe like that. And then on this side is our trip to Casablanca. So I have the train ride and then pictures of the mosque, which was basically the main thing to see there. And then obviously we went to see Rick's Cafe as well. So I'm going to put that here. There we go. Okay, so as far as this spread, I hadn't picked a specific collection. I kind of said I was going to do some stash busting, but I was looking through my stash and I had these cards from the Storytelling by the Year collection from Ali Edwards that was released a couple years ago. And essentially it was like a very general kit. So I'm going to look through this and see if there's anything in here that works just to kind of use some of these products. So there's some 4x6 cards. I don't have any 4x6 spots, but I could obviously like crop this one down if I wanted this color. So that's a possibility, but I'm going to go through the 3x4s first and kind of see what works as far as I want a journaling for this one, a journaling for this one, a title card. I probably want one to write like Casablanca, maybe another title on this side. And then I will do like a filler. Okay, so I kind of went through them by color and I picked, here's some options for journaling cards and here's some options for filler. I'm trying to kind of go with the colors that pull from this. So I'm thinking like I kind of like these 2 as my journaling cards because they kind of coordinate with each other. And I think these 2 colors look good with this. That means though that for this journaling, I have to fill in 5 stories. I think I can break it out into 5 stories. I usually can. And then I could have done these ones instead. I like these 2 as an option, but these are this tan color, which does look good, but because it's such a photo heavy, I kind of want to bring some white in. So I think I'm gonna go with those 2 as my journaling cards. And this one would have also worked, these ones as well. And then let's see, I want a place for my title. I need a journal card for my title, I need a title card and a filler card. I didn't really find anything. I found a few options, but I'm gonna go through the 4x6 to see if there's anything I like better. Okay, so I pulled out some patterns that I kind of liked. I kind of like, so these two are very similar, but I like that this one isn't white. I kind of want to put this one as my title card up here, and I could crop it and pull it across to this side to kind of unify the spread. So I think I'm going to do that. So this will be my title card and probably like maybe my other title on that side. I'm not sure exactly where. And then for another card, I need one more filler card or title card. I really like this one because I kind of want to bring in this teal color again that I have here as a secondary color. It also pops up in the roof of this mosque, and I've got the blue of the mountains here. So I think that this one will be nice. So what I'm gonna do is just crop this one down, and I'll move the other half into my 3x4 pile. So there we go. Okay, so now I have my cards in place. I need some titles. I want to put the title of each destination, and I think I want to do some stamping. I'm thinking I want to stamp on here and then stamp on here as this location and this location. So I want to pick a stamp set that's going to fit on both of those, and because I don't necessarily want to stamp directly on my photo, I'm probably going to do some stamping on vellum and cut it out. So I'm gonna go and look through my stamps for that. I think I'll do that when you guys are on voiceover. I'm going to do my journaling here. I need to put like some sort of label or something for a title. I need a filler for up here. So I'm probably gonna go through my chipboard for that. And then I want some sort of embellishment on some of my photos. I'm not gonna embellish all of my photos, but I will definitely embellish a few of them. Just trying to kind of rearrange this a little bit so that it's not so the same ones touching each other. You know what I'm gonna do? I'm gonna put this guy here, and then actually, no, that's how I want it. Okay, so I could definitely put like an embellishment there. I'm gonna kind of look for places. I don't like these two next to each other because the sky is cut kind of in the same way, so I'm gonna rearrange them like that. Okay, so I like my photo arrangement, I think. Actually, I'm gonna switch these two because these two have bigger skies. There we go. So I like my photo arrangement. I like my card arrangement. I need to do my journaling, come up with how I'm gonna do my titles, my dates, and some embellishments. So I'm gonna go ahead and put you guys on voiceover and get the rest of this one put together. So I decided to start with the stamping because this part was definitely going to take the longest. I pulled over a couple alpha stamps from Ali Edwards that I wanted to potentially use, but I decided to go with the one from the most recent travel release. I love alpha stamps and I love the Alphas Are Awesome series, but they're just a little too big for working in project life. So I don't have as many 4x6 options as I would like. Most of those come in the 6x8 stamp sets and they're just too big for this size album. So Ali, if you watch my videos, which I don't think you do, but if you do, make more of the 4x6 size, some smaller alphas, please, because they're so much fun and there's so many fonts that I really love. This one was so much fun too. I don't know that it would have been my top choice for using in the spread, but I do really like it. It's a very whimsical font and I had a lot of fun using it. So because I am a nervous stamper, I'm worried I'm not going to stamp it perfectly, and I want the ability to redo things and move things around, this is kind of my go-to method for stamping. And you can tell I sped this up super fast because this definitely takes a lot of time. But essentially what I did is I used StazOn ink to stamp all of the letters I needed on vellum. And then I'm fussy cutting them out and I'm going to adhere them on top of my photos. I'm writing Ait Ben Haddou, which is the location that we went to on the left-hand side, and Casablanca, which is the city that we went to on the right-hand side of this spread. I'm going to adhere these onto, the one on the left will be on a photo and the one on the right will be on a pocket card, and then I will run it through my sewing machine, which is one of my favorite ways to add texture, and it does provide a little bit of additional adhesive, although I do use rolling adhesive with this because these pieces are pretty small, they could fall off, especially if you were ever doing something like this outside the page protector. So I always like to run it through my sewing machine, but a lot of that is because I really like the way that it looks. I started putting this on here and I realized I did not center it very well. So I'm going to end up like removing them and moving them over slightly, which isn't ideal, but it ends up working, especially because although they leave a little bit of adhesive on the photo, what's going to happen is once I move them, they're going to cover up those spots from the previous letter or the letter I moved from there. So it's going to be totally fine. So I'm not too worried about it, but I didn't get it as perfectly centered as I would have liked, but that's okay. I feel like it was a little bit big to put on this photo. I probably would have preferred if the font didn't go all the way across, but it's a long word and I don't know. Like I said, I don't have enough smaller alphas. The one that I really wanted to use just was way too big, but anyways, moving on, I do like how these ones came out. This is kind of a whimsical, fun font. So for Casablanca, I knew it wasn't going to fit on one line, so I split it. I don't love when words are split onto multiple lines like this, but I feel like the word Casablanca does split very easily between Casa and Blanca. So that's where I split it, and I feel like it works here. I wouldn't want to split it in the middle of a syllable. So even though there's more letters on the second row, I could have put like the B on the top row to make it more even, but that just doesn't read right to me. So I ran these through my sewing machine. I have black thread in there right now. I will probably switch that up for December daily, but generally I keep black or white thread in there most of the time because those work on pretty much every project. I use my sewing machine all the time, but I am kind of lazy to change the thread. So this is what works for me. What I do when I stitch something down is I don't, go back and forth on the end or anything because I don't want to tear the paper. Instead, I just pull the ends through, which you can kind of see me doing a little bit was off screen there. Sorry for that. And then I cut them off and adhere them down with some Scotch tape on the back. And that gives you a nice clean line on the front. The back looks messy, but if it's not something transparent, it works perfectly fine. That Casablanca was not centered on the card. It was a little bit high, so I knew I wanted to add something else underneath it, but I wasn't entirely sure what. I decided to work on some of my journaling next. I think the handwritten journaling on my Project Life threads is my least favorite part of the process. I don't know why, because I do really love to journal, but I guess because it's so factual based when I do my Project Life journaling, I tend to not journal about feelings that much. I mean, I do some overview like, oh, we were tired or I was sick, but it's more of a this is what happened kind of journaling rather than more introspective like my journal might be. So I don't know, for whatever reason, it's my least favorite part of the process. And so I try to break it up. So I'm doing this card now, and you'll see I do the one on the right-hand side towards the end of the spread. This is about our day trip to Ait Ben Haddou. So I just journaled basically the story of the day, and then I did a rolling date stamp on the bottom to kind of commemorate what date we went. I pulled this label out of my stash. I have a whole bunch of random labels in my stash from various places. I think this was from a set from Allie Edwards. At one point, there were just like a ton of extra labels, and I use them all of the time. So I really liked this one to put the dates. It was the perfect width. It was a little too tall though, so I do need to come up with something to fill that top portion. And what I'm going to do is go into my chipboard stash to find something. So I have a whole video sharing how I organize my chipboard, and I will link that in the description box below if you are interested. you can check that out. But I pulled over my chipboard tray. The larger one is travel theme and the smaller one is photography themed. I remembered I had these chipboard cameras. I think these are from Studio Calico, and they're very cute, but there's just like a million of them. And the pattern on them is a little weird. I think it's like a floral or something, but this one didn't have too much pattern on it, and I thought it fit there perfectly. And then I added a little puffy heart inside of it, and I think that it worked really well with that title card. Then I wanted to go through a few more of my chipboard pieces. This Taking Care of Me one I thought looked really good with the colors here, and it worked because I was sick on this day, and so I was doing a lot to try to feel better, but ultimately I ended up rejecting it. I picked this one that says day trip instead because this was a day trip. Whenever I go through embellishments, something I tend to do is pick the ones that are the most specific that possibly work. So day trip is not something that works on most of my stories. So because that one fit my spread and the subject matter worked, I decided to use it. And that is the best way I can come up with to try to use up my products. So if there's one that, for example, just says documented, I would use that last if nothing else worked, because that one's going to fit most spreads. Moving on to this card here, I decided I wanted to put some of my travel washi on here to create a strip. I originally did one from the Coffee Monster Co. that had little emojis on it, but it was a little too busy for what I was going for. So I pulled this other one from the Coffee Monster Co., which is maybe harder to see on the video, but it is a muted kind of map with some small emojis. I love this one because it's more of a background. And then I have that chipboard there that brings in that teal color from this other card. Now I'm figuring out what I want to put on this one. I found this circle chipboard that says Time to Travel, which I think works really well, but it's a little bit small, so I need to come up with something else to add to this card to kind of back it. So I'm just going through my chipboard and seeing if anything else works. I have this little backpack one that I end up putting on this one for our train ride. Of course, after I do that, I find a word phrase strip that says train ride or something like that, which would have been perfect, but because there's already the chipboard adhered down, I ended up having to move on from it. I pulled out my large embellishment tray of circles because I thought that would work well to find one to mount that Time to Travel chipboard on, just to give it more of a larger presence on that filler card, because that little circle, the Time to Travel circle, was very small in the middle of the 3x4 card, and it also was kind of dark. So I wanted something that was a little bit lighter to kind of have some contrast between that dark chipboard and the dark background. Next, I'm going to work on this title card here. Or not title card, journal card, I mean. So for this one, I need to tell the story of our trip to Casablanca. We took a train there, and then we had a full day there before we flew out to go to Madrid. Because this card has 5 numbers, I need to break my story into 5 parts. So I used that sticky note to write down kind of an overview of what those 5 parts were, to kind of give myself a little bit of guidance. When I do handwritten journaling, I tend to not plan it in advance and just kind of write. And it tends to work for me, I think, because of how much practice I have journaling. I've been doing Project Life for over 10 years now. I've been journaling for most of my life, scrapbooking for most of my life. So it comes as second nature, but if it's something you struggle with, I recommend just do it. Just go for it, and eventually you will get better at filling the space and fitting in things. So breaking a story into 5 parts like that isn't too difficult for me. So when I have a card like that says remember 5 things, I'm not thinking, oh, I need to have something where there's 5 things. I'm just going to put it for any story and then break the story into 5 parts that make the most sense. And usually I can make any story work like that. I'm just going ahead and slipping these into the pocket on the left-hand side here, trimming them down as needed so that they fit. Usually I slip things into the pocket at the very end, and so at this point I kind of felt like I was pretty much done with this spread, but I end up not being done because I decide that I need something else on a few of my photos. Right now what I'm doing though is I needed to adhere these 2 side by side because they are 3x4s. They are going into a 4x6 pocket, and you can see behind there that there are also 2 3x4s on the other side of this 4x6 pocket. That's totally fine.
If I had not had any 4x6s on either side, I would just swap out the page protector. But at the top, there are two 4x6 photos back to back at the top of the pocket page protector. And I don't think there is one that just has one 4x6. So this is a good way to make the page protector work for me. I pulled over these word phrase strips. These were, I think, from the Go kit, scrapbook kit from Ali Edwards, one of the quarterly scrapbook kits. It was one of the older ones, so they were pretty old, and they were all travel themed. So I thought that I'd be able to use a lot of them. But as I'm looking at it, a lot of these are sentiments that I would not use or like would never really apply to my life. So I'm thinking that I might end up purging this set pretty soon. I'm trying to pull ones that work. A few of them were okay. And so I was trying to make them work, but I know there were a bunch that were great, and I think I already used all of those. The ones that are left, a lot of them just don't apply to me. Like, I'm trying to think of what was on there. I guess most of them would, but they're just so specific, like dinner views, lunch views, at the museum, breakfast views, carefully planned in advance. I guess that one would work for me. Saved up for this. They're very specific, so we'll see if I can use them in the future. Here's a look at that completed spread. Thank you guys so much for being here. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them down below. And as always, I hope to see you guys all in the next one. Bye.